this is the open circle, and we are here again to give you guys another episode. You can see this is my contender, Dinod, and I'm so right here. Today, we're looking at one important topic of discussion. This has been a topic of controversy, especially in the political world. We're here to look into forms of government, especially democracy, to argue if democracy is the best form of government or not. I'll be arguing for democracy as the least form of government, not the best, right? So do not hear my contender will be arguing that democracy is the best form of government in practice in the present world so far. So I'll be starting because I think democracy is not the best form of government, because democracy in itself is a government that will slow down development due to the different sphere of decision making, like bureaucracy, right? And I will be going for a dictatorship system as the best form of government, not democracy, right? So yeah, that is it. I don't know if my friend have an introduction to give himself.
No introduction. I will delve deeper, straightforward into it, right? By proclaiming that democracy is indeed the best form of government, and it is still the best form of government in the next centuries to come. I'm very sure that because scholars have evaluated systems of government and tried to see if they'll be able to optimize democracy itself, the result is that so far so good, democracy has proven to be the best form of government due to its self-correcting nature, and any mechanisms that self-corrects is the best mechanism, regardless of the outputs. If it can self-correct, regardless of the direction it takes, that's the best, and that's the safest for us at this point in time, especially since we're living in an era that's characterized by instability, both in financial sense, the political sense, etc. Yes, I'll stand on my notion.
If you argue that democracy is the best form of government, I think, if we look at our present day, I think for me, maybe it's because I'm an African. So far, democracy has not favored us as an African, as Africans. Because me, personally, I think Africans will look and decide what form of government is best for them. And if you look at the African fair, you know that the atmosphere of African political system, you notice that democracy is not the best, especially for us. Because democracy, the processes involved in democracy is too much and expensive. And if you see the amount of money we use in sustaining democracy, especially in the world and especially in Africa, you see that the money is too much to be channeled elsewhere. If it's a dictatorship system, right, it will be less expensive. Look at election per se, for example. Election, the money we spend on conducting election is too much. And at the end of the day, democracy still don't fight. You see, democracy, if you look at the dictatorship system of government, right, look at the rate of development, it will be very fast back. Look at Singapore, for instance. Singapore was developed to this extent that it is today because of it didn't start with democracy. I think democracy might be a system of government. It might be a best system of government after the dictatorship hand over to it later on. But any country that wants to develop prefers start with a dictatorship system of government, then and maybe when they reach some level of development through the dictatorship system before they just go into democracy. Just like I made example of Singapore today, around there was it 1972, the Prime Minister of Singapore, that he was a dictator. He was one that developed. I can't remember his name. Sorry. I think it's Lee something. Sorry, but I think he was the one that pushed Singapore through his dictatorship system of government. He was one that made the decision alone, without looking for any Senate to pass law and anybody for the electorate to approve the bill. If you're looking for faster decision making, you look at democracy. And
the dictatorship,
dictatorship, sorry, not democracy, right? Democracy is too expensive for a system of government, especially for Africa.
But there are different angles I really want to address this, and I'm here contemplating which angle should I come in first.
Okay.
But I think I'll start by first of all analyzing the two systems hand in hand to see how each functions and how, in worst case scenario, outputs, right? Because if we are talking about systems of government, then we must be able to have a single framework that applies to regardless of the country, right? Regardless of if it is Africa or any part of the country, right? Now, if you mention Singapore and the dictator, let's say, what if that dictator happened to be a very bad leader? What happens to Singapore? Eventually, Singapore happened to have a dictatorship leader who have the interest of the people in mind, and he was able to execute his job as he should. That in a scenario where the leader is a good leader, what happens if it's a bad leader? Can you paint me the scenario?
Okay, when you talk about dictatorship, right, you have to come in different forms, right? Number one, in a party, the one-party system, right? They will have, let's talk like North Korea, you have one-party system, they don't have a leader in a party, right? Or in Africa, the way dictatorship and mostly form in Africa is military coup, right? So they'll have like a supreme military council, then they'll have a leader, a head of state from there, which the head of state have to be accountable, just like his cabinet. So if the form that my friend just mentioned, right? What if the dictatorship leader is a bad leader? What will happen at that moment, right? They can, from their own internal mechanism, change the system or change the leader. Sorry.
Are you sure you understand how dictatorship works?
I understand how the dictatorship works.
Did you draw insight from history? Because that's not how it is. In a dictatorship system of government, the leader has the total authoritarianism, right? Even amongst its cabinet. It is the reason why in the cases of the Russian government, where we have Stalin, we have what we call the purges. Stalin purged out every single, they suppressed dissent, they purged out every opposition, anybody who stand against him is killed. Or no, usually is banned, worst case scenario, killed. That's how it is. The ultimatum power rests on the leader. Forget the cabinet, it's just a sort of framework, okay, let's just have people to be able to handle other processes. But the power rests on the leader himself. And if you observe the nature of the dictatorship, realize that there's always that tension, there's always that paranoia between the leader and his cabinet, because he is conscious who is trying to topple him. And so therefore, any instance of opposition, any instance of disagreement is met with more or less brutal response. That is how the dictatorship goes. That's what we've seen.
Well, if you notice what my contender here is trying to put out is that democracy is the best form of government, because at least in a democracy, if there is a bad leader, they can be able to change the leader. Maybe after a 10 or maybe after a 10.
It's all correct.
Right? Okay. How sure are we that even with the election, the constant election, periodic election, and how sure are we that they will be good leader?
Yes, we can never be sure. See, the idea of democracy.
No, listen. You have to compare the thing, but if you look at this thing side by side, it's almost the same thing. It doesn't guarantee.
No, listen. The idea of
because no, I have to address this, right? So
I have not explained my idea of democracy and my idea of dictatorship, so I get to jump into it earlier on before prematurely. Now let me explain to you democracy and dictatorship and how they are different. And where you're trying to jump in, I understand where you're trying to jump in, but I need to clear the air first before, so that you know what you're jumping into. In democracy, in any system of government, the most important thing is not whether or not we find a good or a bad leader. That's not the most important. The most important is, in scenarios where we made a bad decision, can we fix it? That is the most important. That is what made democracy the best. Because if you happen to make a mistake, you can correct it. You don't have to pay for that mistake forever. And any mechanism allows you to self-correct is the best mechanism. Now, in democracy, we have scenarios where we can either select bad leader or good leaders. Now, we can pick out each of these scenarios separately, analyze them separately. For example, good leader. In democracy or dictatorship, which one is the best if both happen to be good leaders? Now, By best, how do you define best? I understand that you are more likely to say, oh, in dictatorship government, things get executed faster. That's what you're going to say. But does fast mean sustenance? In democracy, due to the bureaucratic process, things move slowly. However, it moves slowly, but with several eyes. It's sustaining because the structures that are put in place doesn't rest on the shoulders of one man. It means the idea, the collectivism of different people, the wisdom of many is more than the wisdom of one. As against the dictatorship where it all rests on the wisdom of one.
I don't think you are correct by saying a dictatorship the wisdom decision making rests on the idea of one man.
Okay.
Right? But in fact, I think we are talking about democracy. Democracy is a system that I think is not self-sustaining, right? That every leader that comes into power, every party that comes into power will have to leave the blueprint of the other party and start a new blueprint. That's what it's like Africa that I was mentioning. That's what leads Africa backward. There's not any blueprint that, but imagine in a democracy in a dictatorship system like China. China, for instance, you see the Chinese government, the Chinese what is the name of their party? So what is the name of this Chinese party? But Chinese has a one-party state, right? This Chinese party that currently living in China right now. You see that they have blueprints for decades that are still following up till now because of the dictatorship system.
It's not.
That is the truth. No, listen.
That is not how the dictatorship system works. What you're doing is you are analyzing the version of the democratic system that exists in China. That is not the dictatorship. That is not dictatorship. That is a version of dictatorship that exists in China. So if you want to analyze two systems of government, you have to analyze them for what they are. If you're talking about blueprints, America have blueprints. In fact, if you look at America's history from pre-Cold War to Cold War, after Cold War, you realize that they have blueprints where one leader takes upon the mantle of the previous. So yeah, it exists even in democracy.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm 100% sure.
Because if you look at the present era now, today that we are now, it's 5th of April 2026, I'm not saying the date for future purposes. You see the recent Iran war. This Donald Trump, which is a Republican, accused Barack Obama, a Democrat, that it's due to the relationship, the agreement they had with Iran through their nuclear program. That's what affects America today. And he wants to overcome that decision. You see? And if you look at this news, you find out that they don't have any certain blueprint. Like the Republicans always disagree with the Democrats. And any decision being put in place by the Democrats. You see, if you look at that, you know that's not stability.
Outside China, can you list out countries that implemented the dictatorship system of government and there is evidence of this blueprinting you speak about?
I think there is this, but I haven't made my research. But if you look on something like North Korea today, right? I think they do.
North Korea is a one family system. We forget all the
dictatorship. Right?
You see, if we just
we're talking about dictatorship, right?
Yeah. We're talking about dictatorship. We're talking about blueprints that comes with the system of government called dictatorship. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Not family or whatever, right? That's what we're talking about. Now, if you look at North Korea, it's a case of this is our family, this is a family, this is a family thing. While there is party, there is that formality, but it's not. That's why nobody was able to talk. That was why the last election they had, I think 99% was what Kim Jong-un won, right? That was the record. Now, that's separate. But if you look at history, you realize that it is not the same. You have China, where you have series of leaders who have the people in mind. But in cases where you now have leaders who care only about themselves, that's a problem. It is the reason why Montesquieu came in, I think it's in 1748, he came in and said, it is important that in any system of government, there is a separation of power. So that if there is a separation of power, every single arm of that government will be able to handle specific area of specific issues within the state. If you check the dictatorship government, they are always usually excel in one direction. Usually. Yes. The mindset, if for example the leader is militarily inclined, you realize that they most likely will excel in the military domain. And other side, it's the same thing in North Korea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So It means that when there are no any other people who will be able to handle this other facet of the government, you realize that it rests on the shoulders of the leader, and it's usually unidirectional, and that's why it's not self-sustaining. But in democracy, worst case scenario, we're looking at worst case scenario. We can talk about the best case scenario for the two, and yes, we get better results. The worst case scenario, you have bad leaders who care only about himself. Now, in the dictatorship form of government, you spend a lifetime and you cannot correct that mistake if a mistake was made. In democracy form of government, you can correct it, and you can have another option of looking for someone else. That is the best system of government. You can ask Aristotle.
No, I think Aristotle even he was a disclaimer of democracy that democracy is a simple mob rule.
Okay, no, actually, I don't think so.
He did. He said that.
Aristotle understood leadership and how if a leader is allowed to do whatever he wants, he gets to rule for himself.
Yeah.
Now, Aristotle is a proponent saying that we should have a system where a leader can be checkmated.
Yeah.
Now, during that era, we do not necessarily have democracy developed at that point, but that was the footprint, the fingerprint, the blueprint of democracy. That was the blueprint of democracy because he understood it.
But it was like he said things about other forms of government, but I'm trying to let you know what he said about democracy.
Yes, I think what he just mentioned now is where he was mentioning one of the downside of democracy. But Aristotle is off. He is a proponent of democracy. As a matter of fact, himself and Galton set more or less the blueprint for democracy than what we have as democracy today.
Okay, I think we look more on that in the other episode, but my notion of as a Nigerian we are, right?
Okay, let's talk about Nigeria.
If you look at democracy, before summarize everything, right? If you look at democracy here in this present time, you find out that democracy is a system of government that leaders want to always feel politically correct. Let me give them a speech to calm them down. Let me tell them what they want to know. Let me appease this region. Let me appease this ethnic group. But in the leadership system, they do things where they are. Situation of like the Boga party in this country. You know how the thing died down, there was injustice. In democracy system, it's a system of injustice because of kind of people to gain political power, to win the next election. You don't have to say things about any ethnic group. Even if they do something wrong, you look at the population. How is the population? Where did I get my vote? I get my vote from North Carolina. I get my vote from this state. So I don't have to go there with force to fight against injustice because the people will be displaced. You might say that's something democracy. Democracy is something you spend money to do. At the end of the day, it must still be rigged.
Democracy, you're talking about a false.
Democracy is a stable government, which even if I don't have time to execute its policy. You want to go there, you know that there's not enough time, so I don't have to do good for the people. I have to do it myself.
You're talking about a faulty democracy. That's what you're talking about. That is what you are talking about in a faulty system of government.
And democracy is always, no, we're talking about I know, but it's always like that.
No, it is not always like that because we have working democracy. One of the best countries in the world that everybody look up to is the United States. And the blueprint of the United States is democracy.
But do you notice that it's the party democracy party can sustain democracy.
Actually,
that is why you see someone like Donald Trump. He's still an aggressive leader. He don't want to seek permission from the Senate, which that is Senate of democracy. He seek approval from this arm of government for him to execute something. But Donald Trump, he usually go to war without even seeking the approval of the Senate.
Yes, we have this
democracy. But still in paper, they know that why did Donald Trump did that? He did that because you know that this democracy, without this, we can't be able to reach anywhere. So it has to be a distance.
Not necessarily. Now you see, democracy have systems, the set system in place to be able to self-correct this kind of issue, right? To be able to self-correct this kind of issue, if this issue arises, you should be able to correct it. We have arms in democracy such that if cases like Donald Trump comes up, we should be able to correct it. If you have a system where it is not corrected, it's not the problem of democracy. It's the problem of the people that are executing that democratic system of government. So your problem is the people who are imbibing democracy, not democracy.
No. If you look what he just said is that why did they do that? Why will he do that? Because democracy is not the best form of government.
I don't think so.
I think that's the Democrat, it's a democratic country. But you see that they notice it's not only Donald Trump. If you look at constantly in the US, but for that we're trying to summarize things now. My final point is that the dictatorship of any country you see practicing a dictatorship system of government, you see there's always discipline there. There's always hard work. There's always hard working. Country like China, country like North Korea, you will see people, country like Rwanda, you will see literally the whole country. You will see the citizens behaving anyhow because a whole lot of high discipline there.
Yeah.
In the democratic system, you see the citizens behaving anyhow because they think they have freedom, their right. But I want to tell you now, my viewers, we might be able to revisit this topic next time because producers is only warning us about time right now. But I want to tell you that if you have a dictatorship system of government, you develop faster. You have a disciplined citizen, right? We have decision making faster, So for me, that is the best form of government.
What my contender is describing as hard work is actually oppression. In fact, if you look at through this form of government called dictatorship, what they do is oppress citizens to act a certain way. To go there, you realize that citizens are not happy. That's what dictatorship comes with it. When you have a leader who do not have the people in mind, who have a communist mindset, what they care about is how to be able to get the best out of people, regardless of the position it places people. It is the reason why people are forced to work. Regardless of whether or not you're sick, you're forced to work. That is what he defines as hard working. That's not hard working. In democracy, in a working democracy, we have cases where if you have bad leaders, you can remove the leaders, you can correct him. In democracy is structured in such a way that blueprint should be set in place such that leaders, N+1 leader should be able to take from where the previous leader. Now, if you have a system where N+1 leader did not take from N leader, it's not the problem with democracy, it's the problem of the people executing that democracy. So if we're going to criticize a system of government that is applicable to a given tenet of people, let's criticize it. Don't want to criticize democracy, criticize its structures, its forms, its incentives, and that's the best way. Dictatorship is just somebody who just come, assume all power to himself, and execute every plan he has in his head alone. In his head alone. Imagine a world where you live under somebody who is very wicked. And imagine that you have to live with that person for the rest of your life. You cannot do anything about it. That's what my contender is saying is the best system of government. Thank you.
Okay, I'm very sad to say, I have a lot to say about it. Try to contact my opponent again, but there's no time, right? We're very sorry we couldn't, prolong this debate for so long. I think we'll see you guys next time. This is the Open Step. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share our video for you to get video like this. That will encourage us more. Thank you.